welcome. I'm Harmony. I'm a watercolor artist and the host of Harmony and Friends, casual conversations about art and business. Today, we are in our 9th episode, and we are going to talk about selling in real life, selling at things like an art market or a craft fair, even maybe a convention. There's all sorts of places where you may be able to sell your art or products that you've created based on your artwork directly to the consumer. So this is not a business to business discussion, but a business direct to consumer conversation. So before we get to the artists and their introductions, if you're watching, I would love to know from you. Maybe you haven't had the chance yet or the courage to sell at an in-person market, but surely you have shopped at one. So tell us in the chat, what is your favorite art or product that you've ever bought at a market? And did you know about the artist before you attended the market? All righty. So welcome, everybody.
Hi.
Thank you for joining. All right. We are going to start right into a round of introductions. Let us not waste any time. Lucy, can I ask you to start? You have 2 to 3 minutes. Sorry, I had to pick on someone.
That's okay. Okay,
introduce yourself and your art business.
Sure. So I'm Lucy, and I have a business called Leaf Lane Studio. And that started in 2017 as a wedding stationery business. And just as it was building momentum, the pandemic happened. And so I pivoted because I was like, okay, I need to do something. I'm not willing to give up just yet. And we didn't know how long everything was going to go on for. So I started with a simple to-do list in my shop that kind of went a bit crazy. So I was like, okay, people seem to like stationery. It's not just me. And it kind of built from there. I do have a slightly different background. I did a fine art degree, but I've also had a few careers before that, because I am, this is like, I'm in my 40s now, so this is a business I've had fairly recent, but I'm really loving it. And so now I occasionally do wedding stationery if people know that I still do it. I don't actively advertise it, and some hand lettering and things like that, but mostly now I create sort of gifts, paper products, stationery for nature-loving souls, and just anyone who kind of wants to look after our planet. It's all eco-friendly and sustainable, and I hand paint everything or digitally create it and make the slightly more luxurious end of stationeries. Everything's a little bit extra special, and I have an online shop. I have an Etsy store, and I do sell at markets as well, which is convenient for today's topic. But yeah, it's something that I've been doing for a while in different guises, and recently started with my business. So yeah, happy to be here chatting to you guys.
Thank you. Thanks for joining. And I actually met, quote unquote, found Lucy through YouTube. So conveniently, for everyone watching who loves to watch artist and art business content on YouTube, every single one of the artists today also has a YouTube channel. So you have hours and hours of content to go through if you're
Absolutely. I always forget to mention that I do studio vlogs. I don't know why. I never remember to tell people you do that.
They're
too.
Great. I love them. I can recommend them. Jess, how about you? Can you give us a little introduction?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me here. So I'm Jess. I'm an illustrator, an artist. So I run my own small business called Jess Was Here. Before then, I used to freelance mostly for clients. And before then, I used to be a graphic designer for companies. So yeah, I started Jess Was Here right in the middle of the pandemic. So yeah, back then, of course, we couldn't do any markets. So the business started by selling online. And yeah, then last year I started doing a lot of craft fairs and comic conventions. Anyway, besides Jess Was Here, I also have my own Patreon. And also at the moment I'm illustrating a children's book. So yeah, I recently graduated in children's book illustration. So yeah, I want to do that also in the meantime.
And
Yes.
Jess is getting accolades. You are crushing it on the picture book front. Congratulations.
Well, we'll see. Thank you.
Beautiful stuff. Thanks for being here. Mia, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your art business?
Yes, hello. Yeah, thank you for having me. Such a pleasure to be among so many talented people.
So I'm Mia Hawke. I am an artist. I would call myself a creative, perhaps. So I started my creative artist journey. I actually trained as an actor musician. So I used to do acting, play music as well. And then after university, I got one of those horrible part-time jobs. And I started to kind of doodle in where it was like in a call center, and you had to write down verbatim what the client was saying with the feedback. And I started doodling on the sheets. And I thought, this might be kind of cool, like a t-shirt design type of thing. So I kind of just, did that, and then learned how to screen print. And then all of a sudden I was kind of making t-shirts, and then I started making some funny animal designs and kind of started getting some posters printed, and people were like, oh, you should sell these at some markets or something. And so I started selling at Brick Lane Market, and doing like loads of really small, like random markets around. And then basically I started getting some acting jobs, but then all the money that I earned from acting, I started to put into my business. I was like, okay, like a few years into that, I was like, right, I'm going to have to make a choice here, because I'm kind of pulling my attention in two different directions. And then, I think it was like 2014, maybe, I kind of went, by that time I'd already started painting a lot. So I would say I'm kind of now leaning more towards being like more of a fine artist, I suppose, or visual artist. I still do like illustration for my business, but I prefer doing like painting as my main thing. And then back then I was a full-time market trader, and I was a full-time market trader probably just about up until the pandemic. I also did a few like art fairs and stuff. So I would trade at like Brick Lane. I got a driver's license, got a van, so I could finally go to other places. And that's when I started selling at Canopy Market. I did London Illustration Fair for quite a few years, and then just, kind of random events. And then the pandemic hit, and then I started doing, so my style has like evolved a lot over the years. And like last year I started doing something completely new again. So like sometimes when people come to my market store, they're like, what is this? And like, how many artists are there here? And I'm like, no, it's just me. So yeah, I'm kind of in the process of more streamlining what I'm doing at the moment. During the pandemic, I ended up painting a lot of commission work, so a lot of animals, mainly birds, and that kind of became a thing. And now I run a Patreon where people can subscribe and they can get a painting or a print of the birds that I'm creating. I'm also getting commission work, so I'm doing a very large scale painting of an elephant, which is huge. And then another one, I basically got a small waiting list for commission works.
Nice.
I also have a part-time job because I actually don't want to be a full-time market trader anymore, because it takes up a lot of time, and it took away from a lot of my creativity, I found. So that's another journey I'm on. And the past 2 years have had a part-time job to kind of just put the pressure off financially for when I'm not trading every weekend. So, that's my journey so far.
That's really interesting. I'm interested to hear later on, how you are managing that change as an artist, if you're changing direction, and how that impacts your sales. And I think that's a really, really interesting topic. But for now, I'm going to throw this one back to you, Mia. I think you answered most of this first question, but I'll just make sure. So it was like, what kind of art business do you have? And it was talking about income streams. So what income streams do you have? So is it right that you have the Patreon, commissions, and markets? Are those your main ones, or do you have any others?
So I have commissions, Patreon, online sales, which have been, I used to have a lot of, that used to be quite a big part of my business, the online sales, but it has equally, as I'm not as visible at markets, that has also dropped quite a lot, which has been very interesting. My online sales have also dropped as the whole, the Instagram has gone through a lot of changes over the past 2 years. And I have noticeably noticed that on my online revenue stream. Markets, commission works, Patreon,
online. That's pretty much, yeah.
Okay. That's a good portfolio there. Jess, how about you? What are your art income streams?
So yeah, in the beginning, we just was here. The online sales were my main stream of income. So I have my own platform. I have Shopify website and then also Etsy. But since last year, actually now selling in person is my main stream of income. And I did a calculation in 2021. Yeah, markets, the revenue that I got there was 3/4 of my whole revenue.
Wow.
So yeah, I really enjoy doing it. So I'm keeping pushing on that road. Yeah, then of course, yeah, I have Patreon where I get a small income, and then I have freelancing. I don't accept any commissions, but now I'm working with a publisher to illustrate a children's book. So this is a kind of exception. Yeah, nothing else, I believe. Yeah, no, not yet.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. That's a good number too. I always feel like that's one of those key takeaways is, yes, some people are able to make an income with just, like a full income with one income stream off your art. But when things like a pandemic hit or something, I mean, sure, maybe this won't happen again. Maybe it will, like something else will happen. But I think it's good to have, different things going on. So both of you have a solid mix. Lucy, how about you?
Nowhere near as much as Mia. It's an exhausting list. So I have my website, which obviously is my own, which does a lot of stuff for me, and then Etsy, and I'm on a platform, and so to shop, which we all try these different things, don't we, to see. And then I have some stuff that are wholesale as well. So I stock at the Eden Project in Cornwall. So I live in Cornwall, and the Eden Project, I don't know if any of you guys have been there, but yeah, I stock some stuff there, which is brilliant. And I have another supplier, Forest and Cove, which is a lovely little gift shop in Romsey. So I have a few things. I'm starting to build up the wholesale a little bit more. I used to do a lot more in the way of commission paintings, because I kind of got known for hand lettering and stuff way back when I was doing the weddings. So I would do a lot of things with people's quotes, like if a poem from their wedding or something in the middle, and then some floral details around. So I've started to cut back on that now because it takes such a lot of time. And I love it, but it was taking me away from other things I was trying to build. So hopefully in the future, the wholesale will increase a little bit. And then the markets, I mean, thank goodness for markets at Christmas time, because with the Royal Mail stuff going on, I barely had any orders at all, because I think people were terrified to order in case they didn't get anything. So markets for me have been a really good one, especially at Christmas. But I love that environment anyway. I love being there and selling in person, because it does enable you, doesn't it, to bring people to your site anyway. So that's another one for me that was a bit of a lifesaver, really. Yeah,
that's very cool. Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned the Royal Mail thing, because I think, yeah, we move in these waves, and you never know what's next, right? Because so for so long, it's like, well, why would I go anywhere? I can just have everything, delivered to my home. And now it's like, okay, let me show up at that market. Alrighty. So we will move on. We'll start with Jess. What type of products do you sell at in-person markets? Just give us like a quick list of the type of products you sell.
So yeah, I sell illustrated merchandise. So I have prints, stickers, but since last year I've been focusing mostly on wearables. So for example, yeah, this sweatshirt.
I love that. Instagram, I absolutely love it so much.
So yeah, I screen print them at home with the price that is right there. Yeah, then I also have jewelry, like the earrings I'm wearing, enamel pins, small accessories. So this kind of a lot of small products and bigger, like the sweatshirts, and t-shirts, of course. Cool. Yeah, that's it.
Lucy, what do you sell?
My normal stuff would be my notepads, my planner pads, to-do lists, anything papery. I have stickers and pencils and wrapping paper, which I've got here. And then I do things like wall planners towards January time. And at Christmas time, gift sets, I do hand-painted baubles, little ceramic decorations and things as well. So I have kind of like seasonal stuff, but then my staple kind of stationery lines as well, and cards and things like that.
Nice. Mia?
Yeah, so I feel like I've gone through like everything that Jess is going through with the printing press, and like following on Instagram, I was like, I remember those days. So I used to also have like a 3-color screen printing press and do it all myself. yeah, my main thing before was t-shirts, and I still sell a bit of t-shirts, and I sell them mainly online at the moment. I sell stickers, enamel pins. Okay, I have had jewelry as well, but I just couldn't deal with like preparing it, and it was just like, no, this is way too much. And then mainly prints at the moment is like my big thing, and frame prints and that sort of thing, and then small cute paintings like these little things. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you. All right. So before we get into some of the juicy, more advice and story-based questions, this is my final one for all of you now. Mia, we'll go back around and start with you, if that's okay. When did you first sell at an in-person market, approximately, if you don't remember? And how many times have you done it since? I think for you, you're really going to have to guess.
I so many times, hundreds, if not thousands, not thousands, but hundreds of times, definitely. Okay. It was definitely, I'm wondering if it's about 2012, maybe my first time. Wow. But that was like, I rocked up and I'd made these like little, like, I mean, I just kind of, my creativity just exploded, and I was sewing these like silly sausage dogs, and like, I've gone through any product that you can think of that you can possibly make. But yeah.
Wow, that is a lot of experience you have. I'm so glad that you're here to share it with us. Thank you. Jess, how about you?
So I started, basically when the lockdown finished, because anyway, my business started during the pandemic. So yeah, it was during in summer, autumn 2021. And then it's last year that I fully focused on doing markets. And for 2022, I counted 26 markets, 3 illustration fairs, and 5 comic conventions. Yeah.
Wow, you've been busy. You really, you went for it. Awesome. Lucy?
I'm kind of similar to Mia. Like, I love anything creative. So if I start doing something, I'm like, oh, I'll just sell it. And when I was a lot younger, sort of late teens, early 20s, I used to make little greeting cards with buttons stuck on and little really simple line drawings, like an owl with button eyes or hair grip things, and jewelry. I went through a jewelry stage. So I used to do a lot, and then I organized them as part of my job when I worked in a school, and now I do it for this business, which is a little bit more put together than me just rocking up with whatever I've made on a Saturday evening. So I've done a lot, and then I was working with my dad when I was like 9, because he's a market trader. So from like counting money as a 9-year-old and helping people to their car with whatever they bought from my dad. So this for me seems really like in my veins. This is, I love doing the market stuff because it just feels so good to me.
That's such a cool story about your family. Thanks for sharing that. We are about to go into the questions where the artists can share a bit of their personal experience and maybe some advice. But I just want to throw in here that I really respect what you guys are doing, because I have done markets before, and it was more like, Lucy, what you were sharing, like it was just like a hodgepodge, and it was a gigantic fail. Like, I don't think I ever made, like, I just tried 2 or 3 times, and it was many years ago, but I never made my booth fee back. Like, and it's hard. It's difficult to stand out there, and like, people are
in the winter.
Like,
yeah, you put your face.
My heart. I made that. So it's difficult. I think it seems like something that, maybe you don't need a lot of advice or experience for, because maybe the way to get into it is easier than, for example, we had a topic on art licensing, and that's really hard, like to get that contract, or, to get your art into Target or something like that. It is a difficult entry point. But I think something about markets it's the opposite. Like, it seems so easy, like, oh yeah, I'll just pack up my stuff and go. But then you're there and you have 0 sales, and you realize it is not that easy at all. So I just wanted to throw that in there, that I really respect that you guys have actually done this and made it profitable. So, let's see. I think it would be cool if we jump in. You each sent me a photo of your booth setup, and I would love if you can kind of walk us through it, including if you're willing to share your approximate costs that you actually have to come up with if you're exhibiting at an in-person market. So give me just a few seconds to get the slides up here. And do we have a volunteer? Anyone who wants to go first?
I don't mind. It's fine.
All right, awesome. Then let me move you up here. Take this question away. And here we go. Here is your booth. Tell us a little bit about it, what it takes to prep, just anything.
Okay, so this one was the Eden Project Christmas fair. So that was in November last year. And sometimes I go to events that they're quite strict with what you do, and I couldn't stand behind my stall. They would only let you stand in front.
I was looking at the setup. I'm like, where do you go?
I felt the most awkward human being that I've ever felt in my life, because people are looking and you're like, I'm here. Like,
were you hiding under the table? Like,
oh my God, yes, like, hi. It was so awkward. So I don't normally have as much height in the middle as I had there, but I was like, I'm just gonna, they're very strict. I need to just make the best of it. So sometimes, normally the two green shelves, the higher shelves on either side, I normally have at the front of my stall, and I make a bit more of a display. So it's a bit more sort of, 3D kind of thing. But yeah, that's how I had to go with it. So those two shelves I got in a sale, so cheap, and I painted them green because one of my branding colors is the green on the sign, although it looks quite dark on the photo. But anyway, so I kind of matched it in, and all of this is literally just kind of hodgepodge together, because when I started with Leaf Lane Studio doing markets, I didn't have a great budget for this. And when you first start, you need so much stuff, don't you? And it's just, I need the card machine, and I need to pay for the markets, and I need to do all these things. So, and then the two white shelves in the middle, they're herb shelf things from Amazon. They were so cheap, but I painted them, and everything's lent on are like plate holders that I've painted, and it works. It just works for what I do, so that my notebooks are standing up and people can see them. Really and on this one, I got loads of lights on this one as well. So, and then there's a few changes I'm going to make going ahead for this year. I want to make a few changes with the sign, because the sign on the front, as nice as it looks, it just is a nightmare to put on that tablecloth. So I'm going to get one that sits differently, but that's okay. You learn as you go, right? So you asked about the cost of being at a market.
To get this set up. You said when you started, you had to invest in so many different
actually set it up.
pieces.
So I have stuff, like I have my own tables. I have about 3 different tables, and one of them was probably about £40, but it's a really sturdy table, and the other 2 are a little bit more like the wind will blow and they will go with the wind. But I think you just have to invest where you can, don't you? And all of the little accessories that I've got weren't that much, but when you're doing it all, and then the insurance as well, public liability insurance as well, the little card machine, everything that I take, I think I mentioned to you about, I've just written a blog post on my setup. Yeah. And it does have a little checklist with it. So I'll send you the link to share if you want to. But yeah, I've put my setup, a checklist of everything that I take with me, because it's a bit crazy. I feel like I'm moving in sometimes, but I like to make sure I've got everything. But cost-wise, I don't know. I guess you could do it cheaper, but I guess including a table, you're looking at sort of basically like £100 maybe to start with. But I'm sure a lot of people spend a lot more, but I literally bought things in sales and painted them. I know a lot of people have amazing looking stalls, and I would love to add to mine, but budget wise at the minute, I kept it lower just to make sure I was really enjoying it, which I do. And then I'll gradually add more, I think.
Nice. And that's the 100 for like the extras, not you, because you still have to calculate the product and things too, right?
Oh, of course, my stuff.
Yeah, that's quite the investment, I'm sure, because my minimum order quantities for notebooks would be like 50. So
I have products in. I've got a shelf full of products over here. So I have a lot, and then it's just working out what to take with you. And I do turn up like I'm going to have the best day, and sometimes don't sell much at all, and other days you just have to. I'd rather over prepare. I'm an over preparer. So yeah, and then of course you're paying whatever your fees are for the markets you go to, and for me that could vary from £20 to like £80, depending on where I'm going and what it's about. So it really varies, doesn't it? And you can never guarantee, just because you pay a lot to be there, it doesn't mean it's going to be better. Sometimes the cheaper ones to be at are the really great ones. You can't judge it. You've just got to go and try and see what happens.
I like that. Thanks for sharing your setup here.
You're
That's I
welcome.
also think it's a cool tip to really brand it with the colors, like the paintings that you've done to match the sign and everything. I think that's a very cool approach. And also, I mean, I think that's probably obvious, but something that you just have to really remember is the best setup that you have. Sure, that's great, but you got to be flexible, because this is what you were saying, right? This is not your usual
Yeah.
setup, and every market and space and stall is going to be different in what it offers
Yeah.
you.
You do
So
have to
maybe
be really
don't invest
flexible.
too expensive in something that needs to fit just right, because if the stall is a foot shorter, then it's not going to fit.
Yeah, definitely. I also make room on my stall for, not so much on this one because I didn't have as much room as I expected to have, so I didn't include as many, but I usually buy some cheaper white frames and I frame like reviews for my products in there, and I usually have a little QR code that people can scan to join my mailing list, and all of these kind of things that I try and do, or little giveaways if I can for like mailing list subscribers and things like that. So I normally have a little bit more space, so I have a little bit more kind of like, I'm stocked here and this is about my sustainability and this is, and people just sort of read those things. And but this one a bit more crammed in because of the situation, but basically that's the setup.
I like that. Yeah, I think you're really trying to bring the brand to this table, right? With all that kind of information that maybe you would usually find if you're online shopping, reviews and like an about page. And so that's a pretty cool thing that I would not have thought to do. So thanks for sharing. All righty. Who wants to share about their stall next?
I can go.
Okay. Too slow, Jess. Too slow. All righty, Mia. Take it away.
Okay, so a bit of an awkward angle. This is from my Christmas market. So I think it was like 26 days straight market every day in
oh my goodness.
December. Yeah, it was intense.
Wow.
So you can't kind of see like, some of the details because I was just exhausted like every day, and I just didn't take that many photos. I was like, if you just get to the market stall and turn up, that's good enough with the restock. So basically, my main focus is usually to try and display as much art as I can. So I have 4 pegboards. Like this is the market that I normally sell at. The markets I used to sell at, they were actually bigger stalls, but they normally have like a metal frame around them so that you can use to hang things on. And then I do different things for like, if I do the smaller ones, which only have a table, then I might just have like 4 easels or something in a print rack. But yeah, for these ones, I have 4 big pegboards, which you can sort of see at the background there. I bought these, they're like, what are they called? They're kind of like floating shelves that you can get them in B&Q for like £10 or something. And then I've kind of custom made, so you can basically attach those shelves, and miraculously they were the exact same length as the pegboard. I don't know what I did to deserve that like miraculous thing, but it worked. And then I just had to drill some holes through them, and I have like little screws with wing nuts so it takes like, it's super easy to attach them, and it looks really good. And I just attach them with cable ties to the metal frame. And they actually are like surprisingly sturdy. So on one hand, on the right hand side, you can see I've kind of made like a bit of a display thing there to kind of show a bit more framed pictures. On the left hand side, I also have a pegboard, and I use like the hooks so that I can display beanies, which works really well. It's probably the best way that I've found to display. Like if you have a lot of beanies, like if you only have like 1 or 2 colors, it's fine. You just put them on the table. But they usually sell really well for me. So I tend to have like, I don't know, 50 on display at any time. I then have 3 custom made print boxes, which takes prints up to A3 size. And that there was a guy at Brick Lane who, made them for me. So I mean, all of this stuff, like when I buy things like this, I expect that investment to last me for several years. So yeah, like when I started, I didn't have any of this stuff. It was literally like a few like metal, the railings that you use to hang the t-shirts on. And then a really shit like backdrop and like a tablecloth, right? And then a print rack, and then I got some easels, and then so like it's built up over the years, and I kind of know what what works. But yeah, and those boxes I probably paid like, I don't know, maybe 15 or 20 pounds each for the boxes. But again, I've used them for like maybe 5 years or something. So yeah, fabrics, I really like some nice teal velvet fabrics. So I've probably spent, I don't know, I think I spent 70 pounds on that. But again, like I use them a lot. I use like it's kind of like a forks, like a fake leather cover. So it's a grey one that I use for the table because I am so messy, and people put their drinks and their everything on the tablecloth. So I used to have a white tablecloth and it just got so messy constantly and I had to keep washing it. But now I could just put a bit of spray on it and then wipe off any dirt that comes with it. So that's great, and it also looks great. I also have, like, you can kind of see it, like a little rack that I used to display the stickers, and then also the pins. There's a little mirror there on the side of the beanies, and then you can kind of see on the side there's like the last of the t-shirts that I've got on the railings there. I've also got 4 sort of small easels, so you can kind of see there's some I think that's 40 times 50 centimeter frames. They're kind of displayed at the back of the table, and I also have 4 frames hanging right, like, because the table is at the front and then there's space for you at the back. And I've got 4 displayed on the back there as well. I've got the print rack. On this setup, I used a like apple crate box that I had lying about to have some sale items in it. And then, yeah, signs. I have 2 signs displayed there, all that I got from Printed. And actually, Jess was the one who, like, I asked about advice about this. Because I was like, I want a cutout of my panda skull. And I was like, I have tried this and I see that you have done this. Have you also done this? And she had also done what I was thinking about doing. But yeah, I probably spent like, did I spend like 40 pounds on like each sign, I think? I think the pegboards, which I've had for years now, they originally cost maybe, was they maybe 50 pounds each? So like I spent like 200 quid on that. Print rack, I don't know, it was like 40 pounds, but again, I've had it for years. So yeah, my display probably comes up to a good few £100, like when you add up all the numbers. But I don't think I've bought anything new for it, except for I repainted it like numerous times. But I don't think I bought anything new for it. I bought I bought the display for the stickers this year, and that was like £15 from Amazon or something, and then I painted it. So yeah,
it's tricky, right? Because I think if you end up actually really doing well at markets, figuring out a way how to make it work well, make a profit, like focus on this, then the investment is nothing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You're spending like £500 and then the market fee, and then you realize your art does not sell well at markets or something, like then it's kind of a cost to eat. So it's always tricky with that, right? The better it looks, kind of maybe the more inviting it is. So it's that would be tricky for me to figure out how much do you actually invest at the beginning, how much do you just bootstrap it to test out your product. Do you think it matters a lot how good the stall looks?
I do think it matters, but I think, you've got to like think about it in stages. So like when you first start, like you're kind of like, okay, well, this is like trial and error phase, right? Like I wouldn't say to anyone expect to like sell out the first times you do it. Like you make small adjustments as you go along, and then you acquire a new thing, and it's a gradual process.
Well, it's such a massive learning curve, isn't it? It's huge.
It's huge learning curve, yeah. And so like that's one of the reasons why I wanted to step away from the markets, was because I had kind of subconsciously become like, my creativity started to kind of think in a way of like, oh, that's going to sell well at that location. That's going to sell well at that location. And I was like, wow, I am so bored of this. Like, I don't want to make another design. Like, it was really fun to start with, but then I was like, wow, I'm kind of like just milling it out now, because I feel, I mean, I'm still enjoying it, obviously. It's not like it's, but like, you've
done a lot of them though.
yeah, exactly. And I was like, I need to like stop doing this for a while and like see like where am I at with my creativity, and So yeah, it is a tricky one in terms, and the thing is like what sells at one market doesn't necessarily sell in another market.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, well, it's a very, very cool setup that you have. I think especially like the beanies, it just looks so inviting to look through them and pick your favorite color. Very, very cool. Thank you for sharing this. Jess, do you mind if I bring yours up? Are you ready?
Oh, yes.
All right. Tell us a little about it.
Okay, so absolutely, this is not my normal setup. So yeah, when I send the picture, I send my best booth that I ever made.
I love it.
So nice.
So this was from London MCM. So it's a comic convention, probably is the biggest in the country, in the UK. So it was from last October, and actually this was a corporate booth. So it's a shell scheme. So I mean, it's not very normal to book a space like this if you are a small business, but basically I ended up booking a corporate space because the retailers were full, so there was no space for me. So yeah, this was quite a big investment because I paid £2,000 for the space.
Wow.
But this event also has an incredible footfall because over the weekend, so it's a 3 days event, and there are something like over 100,000 people attending the event. So yeah, it paid off. I was very happy with my investment. But yeah,
That's a big step.
Again, sorry.
I said, congratulations. That's a big step. Let's not just run over that. Oh my goodness. 2,000 investment and you're happy with the outcome. That's really good.
No, yeah. It was quite a big risk. But at that stage, I felt like I wanted to try to kind of believe in my brand. And because anyway, since it was a corporate space, I was next to other brands, bigger brands. So yeah, I think that was the first time that I was seriously worried about doing a market. Because of course, as we said before, you put yourself out there, and if it doesn't go well, it doesn't feel nice. But no, I'm very happy with how it went. Anyway, this is not my normal setup. Generally, it's way smaller. So of course, when I started, I had way less stuff. Actually, some of the stuff that are here on this display, so there are those white pegboards that I'm actually now using in my studio. So I try to reuse my things if I can. But talking about costs. So I have been attending small markets in London, because I live in London. So you generally pay maybe £30, £50 to rent a space. And then, of course, instead, if you want to do comic conventions, for example, where you have generally a higher footfall, it depends. You can, if you want to stay in the artist alley, you generally pay maybe £100, £120, up to 200. And instead, if you want to be a retailer, you pay a bit more, 200, 300. For example, now for the May's edition of London MCM, so the convention that where this booth comes from. I managed finally to book a normal retailer table, so I don't have to pay £2,000 again, but I will be paying 600, which is still a lot of money, but is way less compared to the 2,000. So of course, before taking this decision, I had the previous experiences that validated my choice. So I felt a bit more confident of doing that jump. As also the others said, you're gonna decorate, you're gonna start improving your stall little by little. In the beginning, my table was very, very bare. I mean, super basic. And actually, I was feeling pretty ashamed about my table in the beginning, but in the end, I realized that what matters are your products. Those are the items that you are to sell. So it's better to start from something. Absolutely. And when I started, I'm sure that I spent less than £100 for my display items. Yeah, I kept it very cheap at the beginning. Yeah.
I mean, I think I'm gathering from all of you that, you're all at a stage where maybe this is more aspirational. You have quite a few markets behind you, and you invested over time and figured out what was working and, how much you could pay for a stall fee before, you would just completely just be losing money left and right. So I think that's probably a good takeaway that, this might be a dream, but don't make it a nightmare by going from nothing to this.
It's also what you can fit in your car as well. Like for me, I've got a fairly small space to carry stuff in. So I'm never, right now anyway, I'm never going to be able to transport loads of massive things around. So you just got to make the best of what you can do.
Yeah, no, in fact, about that, I don't have a car, I don't drive. That's it's quite a pain.
Wait, are you taking this in like the metro?
How is this working?
For example, so when I'm doing big events in London, I go with an Uber now. So I have to pay for that, but it's worth it. Otherwise, when I was doing small markets in London, I was traveling with my suitcase with public transport. Of course, in the beginning, I had to minimize the expenses because you don't want to cut on your own profit. So that was a nightmare. That was the worst part of the day. So dragging all the stuff through the tube and
I can't imagine.
Wow. Well, that was probably before you did
it's like the horror of like seeing that buggy enter the bus and you're like, no. And then they're going to ask you to get off and you're like, oh no, I can't. Like, it was hilarious. The last time I did Crafty Fox, I was like, well, I'm not going to drive there. So I went on the bus and then and the wheel got stuck on my trolley on the bus ledge and then it fell off. And it was just awful. But then the bus driver was like really nice because he was and came out and like helped me like load the boxes on top of the trolley again and like lift it into the bus for me. But those moments they bring stuff into reality.
Wow. Yeah, I've done things like that. I always did the Ubers too, and like, they just get out and they're like, oh, lady, like,
what are you doing?
Did you have to book my car?
I feel like we should get little stars to wear like they do in McDonald's when you just surpass certain things. Like for me, it's like I left a load of stuff in a box on the floor and it rained and I was like, it's in a puddle. I sell paper. Wonderful. Star.
Oh no.
No more cardboard boxes. No.
Yeah.
But you managed to go.
Sorry, if I can give an advice, if you're gonna rent an Uber, book a Uber XL rather than the small. I mean, it depends how much stuff you have, because at least, it's better to pay more. The driver has to deal with these boxes, and I always book Uber XL.
I have two things to say to your setup quickly, or to your info. So one thing, correct me if I'm wrong, Jess, but I think I saw that on your Patreon, you actually you do a deep dive into your numbers for the year, right? So if someone's watching and like wants to know even more of the juicy details of what did this actually come out and, profits and what do you have to consider, I think Jessica has some information that you can have a peek at if you're interested. Do you want to
thank you. Thank you for mentioning that. I shared basically the revenue that I got. I made at the event last year. I enjoy being transparent about these kind of things.
Yeah, that's really great. Thank you for sharing. I think the transparency, it's hard sometimes, right, to actually get down to the nitty gritty, and also to be so vulnerable to share that. So thank you for doing that on your Patreon. And then the last thing I want to say to your setup is I love the raccoon on the left wearing a t-shirt. It makes me want to buy the t-shirt so badly. It's adorable.
Thank you. It's a shame that here you can't see it pretty well. But I wanted to have fun. Since I have this huge space, I wanted to let my brand shine a little bit, so this is why I invested a bit more money also with this with those cutouts of the raccoons, because those are my main characters. So I want to keep doing that for the next events.
I feel like it's very on brand, very cute. Alrighty. So I do have lots of more questions for you, but there are also a few questions from the audience that I would love to pull up here in the meantime to make sure we get to them. So the first one, Lucy, I think this is for you a bit because maybe your blog post is this. I'm not sure. But the Art Studio is asking, does anyone have a beginner's checklist of must-haves for first-time markets?
Yeah, my blog post, I've got it linked in the blog post, so the blog post isn't so long because I've done a 2-page freebie. You don't have to sign up to anything. It's free. You just literally open it as a PDF. So I'll send you, is that okay to send you the link?
Yeah, and absolutely. Send me the link. And as soon as this is over, then I'll put it in the description for the video.
Yeah,
so
you can find it. It is on my website, which is leaflanestudio.com, and you can click on the blog and it's the latest one. It's really easy to find. And like I say, you don't have to sign up to anything. You can just grab it. But I'm sure there's other things in there that these lovely ladies would add to it. But it's from my experience doing what I do. There's a lot of stuff on there. So feel free to go and grab that.
Sounds like it's a great starting point. Thank you. Long question. Okay, so from Isabel Canning, I'd really love to get started doing markets. My main question is where to find out about markets that are happening in your area and how far in advance you have to book to secure a space. Does anyone have general feedback for that question?
I think the booking to secure a space really depends on what market it is. Mm-hmm. So like the weekly ones, normally, like if you're in the mix and if you're a regular trader, then some of them are literally weekly, and some of them, Canopy Market has a 3-week cancellation policy, and they send out bookings for like three months in one chunk, for example. And then other ones like Crafty Fox, they send out, like, you just have to be on the mailing list and you have to like apply a while in advance. So it really depends on like some local ones like that are kind of, I think those ones are less kind of more informal, and you can kind of just rock up a bit or send someone an email, whilst some of them you really need to apply for like months in advance.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in Cornwall, so it's a little bit different to London. It's just, you just ask someone down the road. No, but somewhere like the Eden Project, I had to book for the Christmas one in like May. Most of my bigger Christmas markets I booked really early. I just booked so much stuff at Christmas. Don't do that. I booked so much stuff I didn't know what I was doing. But then I also highly recommend just having a search on, hashtags on Instagram as well in your local area as well. And like you said, Mia, that when you get to know the circuit of the markets nearby, you hear things anyway and you see things advertised. But just a good old Google search, and just also for local stuff, around here there's lots of local papers still, they have things in, but also just networking on Facebook, and just reach out and speak to people and ask them how it works if you're not sure. If you see a market, or just ask a trader and they'll tell you. So
talking about social media, for example, when I didn't know where to find them, I was following other small businesses, and quite often they were sharing where they were trading. And so, of course, I was checking the company that was organizing those events. And I highly recommend turning on the notifications, maybe of that Instagram page, so you're gonna be notified each single time they are opening new applications, stuff like that. There
used to be a website which is just coming to me. Going to market or something. I can't. If anyone
there's a couple of it like that. Yeah,
there used to be like a directory of of certain craft markets, and like Facebook groups. Like I'm in one for artists, and they share like a list of art fairs, for example, which is not, and some of them are craft fairs as well. But it just like you really need to network, and I feel like the whole market trader thing is so much self-reliance. So. Like nobody's going to tell you how to do this. Like it is literally like a very DIY process and a very like trial and error process, because your unique product is going to require different things, and it's going to be different to the ones that I sell at for different reasons, etc.
But the community is so great in my experience. I think, you just, if you're worried about doing it, just jump in, do it, start small, and just you will learn so much. But just chat to people and don't be scared to say, it's my first time doing this. because people will help you. The community is amazing.
Yeah.
It's very sweet. Yeah, and I think just what I would do, I think the internet is wonderful and horrible because it does so well at presenting you things that you've kind of looked at. So, for example, if you see an artist and they're trading at a trade fair, right? So I follow so many artists. Okay, wow, they're exhibiting. They usually link the market, right? They add it. Okay, then you're at the market, and then there's this little button at the very right hand side on an Instagram profile that's kind of like more like this, you know? So you can click on there, and like I just feel like, and once you've started this, you know, unless you have some way that Google
A
doesn't
can of
track
worms.
you, right? It's like it's going to be in your face.
Yeah, it's true,
for the rest of your life. So I think it's just making it known, so to say, that this is what you're looking for, and then things will pop up automatically in the future.
But just to say as well, if you are new, start. I know it sounds silly, but obviously it depends on what you sell. So take this with how it's meant. But you can start at little craft fairs in schools. And you know that it could be £10 a table, just to see whether you enjoy the actual being behind a stall and talking to people, and just start small and go from there. Obviously, it's not going to work for everybody. Know your audience, but it's a place to start as well. So,
yeah, awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. I have one more question. Well, I have a few more questions, but let's start with this one. So if you want to answer, otherwise we can also skip this one, but maybe you have had a few minutes to think about it. So for artists who are watching and they're really interested in creating this kind of income stream, what is the hardest thing and the best thing about building? It says art licensing. Let me correct that. Unless you would like to answer that question too. Let me see if I can correct that. Hold on.
I've just signed up to a course
all about a career in art licensing / in-person market.
It works.
There we go. Okay. Yeah. You were all like, no, I did not spend time thinking about this question in advance. Thank you very much.
No.
Sorry about that. So here we are. We are talking about in-person market. So yeah. Do you have a few pointers of things that are maybe more challenging than you expected, things people might struggle with, and then also what's the best part that you enjoy the most?
Okay, I'll go first. The hardest thing is I found that for me, markets, because I did it every week, so every weekend. So my setup would, like when I was really like hardcore markets, I would do Brick Lane Market, or like I would do a Friday to Sunday canopy market and a Sunday location at the Brick Lane Market as well. And yeah, going back and forth and like setting up one market stall on the Friday and then setting up one market stall on the Sunday and then taking down two market stalls on the Sunday as well. It's a lot of work. It's like you will be exhausted. That is like after 2 or 3, plus the one day that it usually takes to like organize the stock and restocking things and making, you know, or doing all the logistical things to the market. It is very hard work. So there's no like, it's no walk in the park that way. You also spend all day. I don't know about you guys, but like I don't, like a lot of people kind of sit behind the stall and they don't really interact. And for me, that doesn't work. So you do have to kind of, you know, be present with your customers and interact with them, have a chat. It's also like a great way of like actually getting direct feedback to your product, which nowadays I find really difficult to get online. And like sometimes I'll be like pushing a product online and like there's no one buying it, and then I rock up at a market and I'm like, oh my God, like people are just loving it and buying like tons of it. So it's a real great way to like getting a better sense of what works. Markets can be very seasonal. What I found, weekly markets, which is one of the reasons like I didn't want to do the weekly markets anymore, and now I'm moving more towards doing like kind of what Jess is doing, which is doing more chosen events rather than just being at the same market. The hardest bit, definitely the first few years, was there would be those weekends where you wouldn't sell anything. Like I had plenty of those. I had plenty of weekends when the weekend would end in tears and you're like, wow, I literally just spent X amount of money. I spent all this time preparing for it. I poured my heart out and nobody bought anything. And my neighbor sold a grand worth of stock.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And their stock is imported and it's cheaply made, and you're kind of going, how am I supposed to compete with this? Like, what am I, so there is that, and I've been through a lot of those weekends as well, which is why I wanted to started doing commission work. For example, in the summertime it tends to be a very dead period for me, so then I'm like, okay, use this time to create new products or do commission work or focus my interest on something else. And then it's like, I think the hardest is literally just like the trial and error phase. But the best thing is when you have that banging weekend and you take home that like the big pot of money and you're like, oh my God, I could do this forever. This is the thing. And you're like popping up.
I don't need to feel my feet.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, like you start to dream and it's like, oh my God, I'm going to be rich by the time I'm like, and then you're literally on top of the world and everything is great, right? And you think like you are the shit. And then and then like literally 2 weekends later and you're not selling anything and you're
sobbing into a coffee.
And you're like, I can't even afford this coffee. And you're
need one.
The drama of the whole thing, it does keep you on your toes.
Yeah, I think
sounds
it makes
like
you a strong person.
very emotional.
They can be emotional.
Well, thank you for sharing so openly. I think that's good to know that it could be quite the roller coaster ride, right? And that every one of you seems to have been able to relate to that, and had the incredible weekends where you feel on top of the world, and then others where you're like, well, yeah, I went home poorer than I came here, so this was not a good use of my time. Does anyone else want to say anything to this question? Otherwise, I could pull up a different one.
I was just going to second what Mia said, but also with the whole learning about your products at markets, I had some to-do lists, like shopping lists that were really long and they weren't really shifting for me. And then one day this lovely little old lady said, excuse me, dear, do you have any stick-on magnets that could go on the back of these? I was like, no, I don't. So then I started bringing I got these off Amazon and I sold them with them. And now I have none left. They flew out because that one lady said that one thing to me that I'd never even thought of, because I don't have a magnetic fridge. I have a wooden front, so I didn't think about it. But I would just say the same. Just be prepared to work hard. But when it goes well, it's really great. And if you don't sell, really talk up your email list. If you have one, you should get one. Make sure they go away with a business card. Encourage them over to your website, because sometimes people just aren't ready to buy from you that day, or they're in a rush. And and I've had people come to me and leave me comments at the checkout saying, oh, I saw you at Truro Market in Lemon Key 2 weeks ago, or whatever it was. I'm like, oh, cool. So now you're on my website and I'm going to keep hold of you. It's just staying positive. I know it's depressing when you don't take money, but also try and think about how you can keep those customers. In my blog post, I have written about that as well. But yeah, it's just like, how can you keep those customers even if they're not buying from you there and then? So important. But yeah, I second everything that
Yeah, because also it's this kind of special personal connection, because you've met the person. So I think you're maybe more inclined as a consumer to possibly buy if you are interested, and
that whole 11,
you've seen them face to face, maybe had a conversation. Yeah.
And the whole thing now that they say it's 11 touch points to a sale now.
Wow.
I feel
now
like
you're 11.
It's supposed to be 11 now. I don't know how they worked this out, whatever, but it's probably 14 by the time this is finished.
They used to be 7.
I know it used to be 7, but apparently now it's 11. I don't know who says this, but that's what it is. Either way, though, but at a market, I feel like you skip through several of those steps because you're face to face, and that is not to be kind of glossed over. I think it's a really important factor. Even if people don't buy then, it's like when they see you again, try and get them on Instagram or get them on an email list, so then you can, they recognize you and they know you. So that know, like, and trust in your brand is already like mostly built. So yeah.
That makes sense. And to also make it more of a long-term thing. So maybe you just spent an afternoon there, but you can really hopefully carry over some customers, and maybe you didn't sell that day, but you might have a customer for life.
No That's crying under the table.
Yeah. I still have people who's bought from me like 5 years ago pop up and leave me a message like, oh, I met you at Brick Lane 5 years ago. I lost that beanie that I really love.
That's cool.
But that's why you said about, I don't ever take a chair with me. No disrespect to anyone who does sit down. I never sit down. My dad hammered that into my brain at like 9 years old. Don't sit down. So I never have. But for me, that's a really important thing, to just about be face to face with someone and chatty, because it's so easy to get lost on your phone otherwise, and then they just walk past because there's no eye contact and you're not welcoming them in, you know. So
Wow.
I usually have like a rule, like, and
Jess.
Sorry, Jess. Go, Jess.
No,
Jess.
I wanted to say that personally, I don't interact much with customers. So I wanted to say this for all the people that maybe are very introverted and maybe they don't want to do in-person events because of that. Sometimes you have customers that they don't even look at in your eyes. In that case, I don't even say hello. I just keep them as in their own space. I want to respect their own space. No, it's fine. So there are people they want to interact, and it's brilliant. In those cases, I love interacting with them, and I believe that is one of the reasons why I keep doing markets. Is exactly this interaction with the customer that is way stronger compared to the interaction that you get online. But yeah, if you don't want to interact with people, I think we have the luxury of doing visual products, so they generally speak for themselves. So yeah, it's fine even if you don't want to interact much with the customers. Of course, of course you should be smiling, being nice, but it's fine. I personally, I'm terrible at small talk, and I generally don't do that. So yeah, I wanted to share my own experience. Yeah,
I just kind of cut in and say, like, Jess's art is just amazing. So like she doesn't have to, like, because I met Jess at, like, I was working at a market outside and I went into the Crafty Fox one where Jess was selling, and I was like fangirling over her stuff. Like, and then I started stalking her on Instagram, and I was like, I love your art so much.
oh, thank you.
So I was like, oh my god, if I could just be as streamlined, as like on point as brand as what Jess is doing, I was like, yeah. So like, I think you do have like a really unique and like really strong brand. So yeah, I don't think you do need to do as much speaking as maybe some of us other people, but you know.
We're just like the Dell boys of the market, trying to talk our way through.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to add one thing that I love about doing markets is that you don't have to rely on social media, and that is something that I love because when you're selling online, of course you can sell in different ways. You can build your own email list, or you can maybe pay for adverts. But generally, you try to sell through social media. And personally, of course, I promote the events I attend on my Instagram. But 95% of the people that shop from me, they are actually new customers or repeating customers that found me through other events in London. So I love that I don't have to rely strongly on Instagram because, we all know that Instagram sucks right now. Frustration. So I think this is a very positive aspect in my opinion.
That's very cool. You are literally in front of people's eyes. No algorithm. Awesome. So this question is for the audience. We're already at over an hour, so we'll just go a few more minutes and have time for maybe 1, 2, 3 more quick questions. So if you are watching and we haven't yet covered what you were hoping we would talk about, let us know in the chat. What burning question do you have about selling at in-person markets? And while you think about that, I will pull up one more of the ones that I have prepared. So, okay. What is the biggest lesson that you have learned from selling at in-person markets that you can share with other artists?
Other than not putting cardboard boxes in puddles.
I think that's a good one. Do
you know what? For me, mine's really, really simple. Because you've spoken about a lot already. Mine is put prices on your product. I know this won't suit everybody's products, but for my stationery, because people pick it up, I had a pricing board and I thought that was enough. It turns out people don't look at everything. So I just use like a really simple jewelry tag and a bit of washi tape because I don't want everything to be permanently priced up. So when I send it from my website, I don't want prices on everything. But if as much as you can, just put prompts of prices everywhere. And then people won't be saying to you all day, how much is this? How much is this? How much is this? And I know it sounds really silly, but it's like the most simple thing. And it does make a difference because so many people won't ask and they just put it down and go. If the price is on it, they're like, oh, cool. And then they're ready to pay. Simple thing, really effective.
It makes total sense because as a consumer, I think unless I completely love it, like 100% need to have this, I would never ask because of the face I might make. Like I don't have a poker face, so if
like
it's a price I don't expect, like I don't want to do that to the person. So I'm just like, okay, it's not for me. And so and then when people have the boards and you're like, okay, maybe they have fancy names for their things, or you're like, well, is this an A6? Like I don't know what I'm looking at in your list. So I think that's a really solid.
This is the thing that I learned really fast, and I learned it like super fast with my own stuff because I have a lot of different notebooks at different thicknesses, and I was like, oh, that's I can call that a chunky one, and that one's a standard one, and how do they know? I know.
Right. Or like picking everything up to compare the thickness to know.
Oh, I don't want it now.
That's good advice.
I can add something. Something that worked very well for me is being offering different price points. So products. So I have different how you say price ranges. So it's very good to have a low price item. So in my case, are stickers. Because if somebody comes by and they like what you do, maybe that day they don't want to spend any money, they didn't go out with the intention of shopping. And so they can simply get a sticker, that is just maybe £2-3. And that is a very, very important thing to do. Because instead, if all your items are high valued, maybe it's gonna put down people. And also, something else that works very well for me has been having products available to grab for people. Maybe some people can disagree with this, but if people can touch and grab their own items, that helps a lot. That boosts a lot the sales. And also on my end, I have to do nothing because people come, they come and they pay. I don't have to grab them from the back of my table. So that's very handy. The only negative thing about that is that if you're attending a very busy event, like for example, a comic convention, maybe people can steal your things in that case. But anyway, still, is a price that I'm available to pay. So I'd rather lose some items, but increase exponentially my sales. But it depends. This is my approach. In fact, in the stall that I shared before, the one in London MCM, I was displaying all my art prints there. So people, they had to ask for my art prints and I grab them from the back. Instead, now I have a kind of rack. So I put all my small prints there ready to grab. I think that helps a lot. So people can choose, they can look closely instead of asking me to grab it for them.
That makes sense because that's the joy of shopping in person, right? If I just want to see it, then I can just buy it online. But to actually be able to touch it and really check it out closely before you decide makes sense.
In particular, if you're selling apparel, t-shirts, that's very, very handy because of course people can check by themselves the size, they can touch the quality. That helps a lot. If you have, if you have room for a rail, I highly recommend it.
I would say an advice, maybe this applies more to like when you're selling regularly, that I have used many times over the years is when you're doing like, if you're doing, for example, weekly markets, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So like, it's the thing of like, you never know when, like, for example, I could have not a sale all day and then somebody comes and spends £200, right? And it's like, especially when you're new to it like that sort of, that tension, that can be quite a lot to have. Like, it's quite a lot to be like, oh, I'm not sure. And it's kind of like, right, I'm not going to put a judgment upon this until I've exposed it, say, at least 4 or 5 times. I'm not going to put a judgment on this market until I've been there for like 4 or 5 times, for example, because you never know that one day is not necessarily, and then you go, okay, well, the average over say 2 months, does the output match the input, etc. So I think that is like try and see the bigger picture of things rather than just like freak out after one day if something's not working.
Yeah, totally agree.
Sounds like you need some patience to make it work too. So we have one final question from the audience. And that's from Bazuta Art Studio. One more question. How much product should I have made before going to a market, like different types and quantities?
I mean, I feel like just make something and turn up with it. Like that would be mine. I wouldn't, any new product that I make, I make a little bit and then see how it goes, and then I make more. I rarely, if ever, like I only really committed to, like now I will put in print orders for like thousands of pounds, for example, and I will put in frame orders for thousands of pounds. Like I spend thousands of pounds on stock every year, but that is only after the initial like trial of a little batch first, see how that goes, and then I will commit to bigger quantities. So yeah, just make different things at different price points and then take it from selling it a couple of times is my advice.
Yeah, if you're making your stuff at home as well, for me, I get my stuff printed and delivered to me. So minimum order quantity might be 25, might be 50. So you're kind of limited, but then what I take with me is really what I can manage, and you get to know what your best sellers are and maybe what will sell a little bit. And that's like you say, it's just like trial and error, how much you're going to take. My stuff's really heavy, loads of paper, super heavy. So just try it out and see what sticks.
Yeah, when I was doing markets, so when I was traveling, I was commuting to get there. I was basically just filling up my suitcase, whatever fitted in the suitcase. That's it.
I bet you got really good at packing it.
Of course, most of the time, so of course, I was bringing too much stuff. But that comes with experience, so there's no right or wrong answer. Now that I'm doing maybe bigger events, I try to make as much as possible. But it depends, if I'm going with an Uber. For example, now this year I'm going to attend some events that are outside London. And in that case, since I don't have a car, I have to go with public transport. So I have big limitations on what I can bring. But I can simply bring what I can. But it comes with experience. For sure, during your first event, you're going to bring too much. You're going to go back with a lot of stock, but it's fine. I mean, you're going to sell it in another event or online.
All right. Thank you. Let me take this final banner off. I want to give you three artists one last chance. If there's anything that you wanted to chat about, any advice you wanted to give, anything that you really had hoped to make a point about before we wrap up, this is your time. Any final thoughts?
I just wanted to add that before starting, since I live in London, I was visiting all the different markets that are in London, because here there are a lot of markets that happen every day or every weekend. And actually, I was seeing that all those markets, they didn't fit with my products. So I was always scared to start doing it, because I thought that my products didn't fit with those events. But then simply I started, and I realized that little by little that things were working out. So you never know. Some events can be pretty cheap. So it's worth giving a go, in my opinion. You never know.
In my blog post I wrote about, I kind of made a note of some of the things that people over the times that I've been doing markets have said to me, like, oh, I want to do it, but I'm worried about this. And one of the things that people always said is, what if people just like really slag off my products? What do I say? And I sort of wrote down a few that people have said to me, because I had one old man came to me in my store, and he was so lovely, and he's like, I'm not paying £9 for a notebook. He just wants something he can write his shopping list in, and he wants to get it for 50p from wherever. And I totally get that. And I think sometimes you just got to know that it's okay if people aren't your ideal customer.
They're not your customers,
it's fine, and I get why he doesn't care about sustainable eco paper. He doesn't care that it's got a hand painted front cover. He doesn't care about the GSM of the paper, and I get that. That's totally fine. I think sometimes it's just knowing that it's okay. Some people are very vocal, but it's so rare. I think it's really, really rare. So if it's a worry that you're thinking, I want to do it, but what will people think of me? It's like Jess said, turn up at the markets you feel like you may not fit into, because it will work. I go to one in Truro, it's a farmer's market, and they have you know, all the food and amazing cakes and stuff on one side, and they have us artists and small businesses over the other. One day it will be amazing, and the next time it will be really busy, but we won't take any money. But like Mia said, it evens itself out. So try things more than once, and it'll be great. Just try. Start small, give it a go.
Yeah, I definitely. I do think that as you do markets as well, like it really sucks. Like every weekend I do something, you literally hear people discuss your art in front of your face, right?
Yeah.
And then like especially with my new work, I've started bringing more paintings that are, you know, that are in the higher price brackets of like £650 or whatever. And it's kind of like, you know, do I expect to sell those things at a market? I've sold a painting of £2,500 at a market because the right person turned up at the right time. Do I think it's going to happen every weekend? No. And do people laugh when they see the price? Yes. Do people like, oh no, you know, maybe not today? You know, like they do kind of do these like really silly things that can feel really hurtful, but like.
Yeah. But you just got to be strong behind your brand and what you do, and you know the time you put into it, and you know the reason why it's that price. Not that you need to justify it anyway, but
that's the thing. Like you don't need to justify yourself. It's like, okay, cool, you're not my customer, and then someone else comes along and they totally get it. So it's like you can't expect to not have somebody criticize your work. Like it's like you just gotta sign up and it's like, right, I'm gonna get criticized, like come at me, it's gonna be fine. Like
it's really rare though, isn't it? I mean, I don't hear it very often. People might look at the price and put something down and walk away, and I think, okay, cool, but not very often do you get it like vocalized. Like
I think it depends on like your price points and like
sure, fair enough,
but yeah, most of the time no. Most of the time people like and it also depends on what market and what the crowd is like. I would say Brick Lane, for example, the lower price points like really worked and people would not commit to the high price point. Canopy Market, however, people would be like, yeah, okay, I'll take that. And it's a £75 frame print, for example, and not blink an eye on it. So it really depends on like, the crowd and who's there.
That makes sense. Well, thank you all so much for your genuine sharing and caring here. I think it probably helped a lot of people watching to maybe take that first step. And it sounds like, some of it is a little scary. Your art's going to get discussed maybe, and maybe you'll lose some money when you're just experimenting and starting, but that it can definitely be a worthwhile approach and a way to get in front of people to really even kind of market test. Hey, maybe before I order 1,000 of these, I'll see if anyone even wants them in person, and then I can still sell them online. So I think so many pros as well as challenges that you've described. So I so appreciate all your time and your honesty. And with that, I think we will wrap up this chat. I'll say goodbye to you for now. And then I put you up. See, I knew this was going to happen. Just always, always be sure that you might be on camera, because I do silly things like that. So, ta-da! This is the face I thought I was going to see. A big thank you if you've watched, if you've participated in the chat. If you are watching the replay, please feel free to still ask questions in the comments. I will try my best to answer them myself or get some answers from the artists who have participated. And please also make sure to subscribe. Every 2 weeks, we have a live artist chat like this, and we always talk about the art business that the artists have. So different income streams, different types of illustrations, and different fields that you might be able to get into to build that big portfolio of art income streams to hopefully one day make a living off of your artwork. So thank you so much, and see you next time.